Welcome to the sixth case in our series ABG of the Week. This week, I am so excited to be presenting this wonderful case where there is so much to learn that I shall actually be spilling over to a second video just to complete all the things that we can actually pick up from this single case. So, without wasting time, let's start with the case. A 60-year-old diabetic male was brought to the hospital with an altered sensorium, and as soon as he came, a blood gas and relevant investigations were done. These are the values. What I want you to do is, I want you to interpret this data. As you're well aware by now, what you must do is take a paper and pen and a calculator, and then pause this video. Once you have committed your thoughts and interpretation on a piece of paper, resume this video and compare your interpretation with mine. The oxygenation status. This patient is on 30% oxygen and the PO2 is 120, which is more than 100. So this patient has hyperoxemia. But that's never enough. You must calculate the alveolar arterial gradient. And when you calculate the alveolar arterial gradient, you find that in this case, it's 18.9, which is normal. You should know how to calculate the predicted alveolar arterial gradient. Formula is 60 upon 4 plus 4, which is 19. And this is what we calculated, which means there is no lung pathology. Looking at ventilation, the PaCO2 is 60. It is very high, and therefore this patient is hypoventilating. Now, normally when a person is hypoventilating, your thought first goes to COPD, but the alveolar arterial gradient is normal, which means there is no lung pathology, and therefore the cause of this hypoventilation has to be neurological, a central cause for the altered sensorium. Looking at the acid-base status, this patient has an extreme acidemia, 7.05, and both the elevated PaCO2 and the reduced bicarbonate can explain it. So this patient has a dual primary pathology. There's a primary acute respiratory acidosis and a primary metabolic acidosis. The next step is to look at compensation. So pick up any one of them. So let's pick up primary metabolic acidosis and see how the PCO2 should have behaved. The expected PaCO2 for a bicarbonate of 16 is between 28 to 32. And in the previous videos, we have seen how to calculate this. In this patient, the PaCO2 is actually much higher at 60. And this reconfirms what we've already picked up, that there is a primary acute respiratory acidosis. The next step is to work up either of them. I choose to always work up metabolic acidosis when it's present. So let's look at the anion gap. The anion gap calculated in this case is 30. So the actual anion gap is 30. The expected anion gap is 12 minus 2, the minus 2 being for the acidemia. So that comes to 10. Since the actual anion gap is much higher than the expected anion gap, this patient has a high anion gap metabolic acidosis. In every patient of high anion gap metabolic acidosis, you should calculate corrected bicarbonate. But to do that, you must first calculate the delta anion gap, which is 30 minus 10, 20. If we take this delta anion gap and add it to the actual bicarb, which is 16, we get the corrected bicarb of 36. Now this is much higher than 24, and therefore there is an underlying hidden metabolic alkalosis. So what we find is this patient actually has a triple acid-base disorder, an acute respiratory acidosis, high anion gap metabolic acidosis, and metabolic alkalosis. Summing up, this patient has an acute respiratory acidosis, but the alveolar arterial gradient is normal, so the cause is probably a central hypoventilation. There is a high anion gap metabolic acidosis and a metabolic alkalosis. What could be the cause of high anion gap metabolic acidosis? Well, the blood sugars are high, there's an altered sensorium, so you would think of either a diabetic ketoacidosis or a hyperosmolar non-ketotic coma, which is now appropriately redesignated as hyperosmolar hyperglycemic syndrome, HHS. If you calculate the osmolarity in this case, it's 330, which means that the osmolarity is very high. The bicarbonates are not so low. So this favors the diagnosis of hyperosmolar hyperglycemic syndrome. The metabolic alkalosis could be due to vomiting, which is not uncommon in these cases, but more likely due to the hypovolemia from severe dehydration and a contraction alkalosis that occurs from long-standing osmotic diuresis that occurs in patients with hyperglycemia. Hypochloremia may also be contributing to this. The cause of acute respiratory acidosis and hypoventilation is most likely related to the altered sensorium from the HSS and is uncommon in DKA. This is how we would work this case up in the exam if you're giving a part 1 exam. But as a consultant, we cannot be satisfied with just this ending. And that's what excited me about it, that there is so much more information available in this lab data that are relevant clinically and are going to be invaluable in the management of this patient, that to end here would be a disaster. So what are the things that we can pick up more from this data that would be meaningful in the management of this patient and which we should do in every blood gas and every case is what we're going to discuss in the second video. If you like this video, please let us know in the suggestion below. And if you're new to this videos or this series, please click on the subscribe button and ring the bell icon so that you may be reminded whenever a new ABG of the week is put up. See you soon in the second part of this exciting video.